At Christmas, my mother-in-law looked directly at my 6-year-old daughter, my bright-eyed, innocent, completely undeserving little girl, and said, with the sweetness of poison wrapped in a bow, "Children from mommy's cheating don't get to call me grandma." And she said it right after, shoving back the handmade gift my daughter had spent days creating for her. The gift Mia had clutched in both hands like it was the most precious thing in the world, because to her, it was. Then my son stood up, my 8-year-old son, and he said something that stopped time itself. The whole room went dead silent, not the polite kind of silence. The kind of silence that happens when something so wrong, so deeply wrong, cuts through the air and lands in everyone's chest at the same time. I swear every single person in that living room stopped breathing. Even the cheap porcelain angel perched on Sharon's mantle looked like it wanted to cover its ears and look away. And me, I just stood there, completely frozen, like someone had reached inside my skull and unplugged whatever part of the brain is responsible for functioning like a human being. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a goldfish experiencing the most profound emotional trauma of its short, miserable life. My 6-year-old daughter, Mia, didn't fully understand the words. She's 6. The cruelty was designed with adult precision, disguised in a tone a child couldn't decode. But she understood the rejection. Children always understand rejection, even when they can't name it. Her face crumpled slowly, then all at once like tissue paper left out in the rain. Soft, helpless, confused. And that's when the dizziness hit me. A wave of it, so hard and fast I had to grab the back of the nearest chair just to stay upright. Not because I was about to faint. No, I needed that chair so I wouldn't reach out and grab Sharon instead. Everything had been perfectly, aggressively normal just 1 minute before. Or at least Sharon-level normal, which means festive on the surface, completely hollow underneath. Her Christmas tree was twinkling with military precision. Cinnamon candles were battling for dominance against the smell of burnt ham drifting in from the kitchen. Presents were stacked high and neatly, like we were filming a commercial for seasonal overspending. The favoritism, of course, had been flowing since the moment we walked in the door. It always does at Sharon's house. Like boxed wine at a PTA mixer, constant, cheap, and hard to ignore. Bella went first, my sister-in-law Melanie's daughter, the golden child, the favorite grandchild, the one who could sneeze on a piece of paper and be praised for her artistic talent. Bella handed Sharon a mug she decorated at school, a lumpy, glitter-encrusted monstrosity that looked like it needed immediate medical attention. Sharon reacted like she'd been handed the Holy Grail, maybe the actual Holy Grail, filled with liquid gold. She shrieked. She swept Bella into her arms. She buried her face in her hair. My father-in-law Lawrence clapped enthusiastically from the side, like an animatronic grandfather who had finally found his purpose. Then my older son Noah handed over his gift, a simple, sweet drawing of him and Sharon sledding together. Sharon gushed. She smoothed his hair and called him her little artist, her talented boy, her everything. They gave him a box bigger than he was. When he ripped it open, it was a remote control car with flashing lights and rubber wheels that could apparently drive on walls, or ceilings, or outer space. It didn't matter. It was perfect and expensive, and they wanted him to know it. Then it was Mia's turn. They'd already set the tone with her gift, a sad little plastic doll with hair so sparse it looked like it had survived a chemical incident. Sharon smiled at Mia in that particular thin, strained way she reserved for people she wished she didn't have to acknowledge. But Mia didn't notice any of that. She was too excited, too full of pride and love and pure, innocent anticipation. My sweet girl had spent days on her picture. Days. I had watched her work on it at the kitchen table, tongue poking out in concentration, picking the right colors, adding little details, asking me if it looked good. It looked wonderful. It looked exactly like something made with love and given freely, which is more than I can say for anything Sharon has ever given anyone. Mia held it with both hands as she walked toward her grandmother. She was beaming, eyes bright, bouncing slightly on her feet, the way kids do when they're so full of happiness they can barely contain it. She held out the picture. Sharon took it, looked at Mia, looked at me. And then, in the sweetest, most deliberately poisonous tone I have ever heard in my life, She said the words that will echo in my skull until the day I die. Children from mommy's cheating don't get to call me grandma, honey. I felt every single word land like a physical blow, a slap with each syllable. Mia froze like a kill switch had been flipped inside her. The smile vanished. Her mouth trembled. Her eyes filled slowly, the way a glass fills with water right before it overflows. And then the first tear came slow, heavy, deliberate. The kind of tear a child cries not from a skinned knee or a broken toy, but from the first time the world stops making sense. The first time something safe turns sharp. Lawrence shifted in his chair and said absolutely nothing. Melanie looked like she wanted to smile, but was smart enough to know she'd better not. Thomas, my husband, looked like someone had shoved him underwater. His eyes were wide. His body had gone completely rigid. He kept opening his mouth as if he was going to speak, kept pulling air in, but nothing came out. Just silence where there should have been defense. And me, I was vibrating. Pure, white-hot rage crawling up my spine in electric waves. I felt it in my teeth, in my fingertips, in every single pulse of blood through my body. I was 3 seconds from saying something that would have stripped the paint off the walls. But before I could speak, before I could find the words or find my voice or decide what to do with all of that electric fury inside me, Noah stood up. My 8-year-old, the one they adored, the golden boy, Thomas's little mirror image, the one who could do absolutely no wrong in their eyes. He stood up so fast his chair scraped across the hardwood floor with a sound like a gunshot. Everyone flinched. He walked, not ran, walked straight toward Sharon. His jaw was clenched. His small hands were curled into fists at his sides. His eyes were burning with something I had genuinely never seen in him before. Something fierce. Something heartbreakingly, prematurely adult. He looked like a tiny, furious knight who had decided this was the hill. He reached out and he snatched the drawing back. His own drawing. The sledding picture she had gushed over 20 minutes earlier. He grabbed it with small, shaking fingers and pulled it out of her hands. Then he placed the remote control car. The giant, expensive, wall-climbing, space-traveling remote control car right back at her feet. The room gasped, audibly. Even Melanie blinked like the power had gone out. Noah stood up straight, looked at Sharon, and in a voice that was steady but shaking at the very edges, he said, "If my sister can't call you grandma, then neither will I." Silence, thick, suffocating, absolute. Bella stared. Melanie's jaw dropped. Sharon reeled back like she'd been physically struck. The porcelain angel on the mantel continued its passive observation. Then Noah turned to Mia. He took her hand, gently, carefully, like she was made of something precious that he was responsible for protecting, and he looked at me. "Mom, can we go? I don't want to be here." It was not a question. It was a verdict. And in that moment, every confused, angry, heartbroken part of me snapped into perfect clarity. "Yes," I said, "we're leaving." Thomas stood, slowly but with purpose. Something had shifted in his face. Shame, maybe, or the particular look of a man who is watching a version of himself he doesn't want to be anymore and deciding, right now, in real time, to become someone different. He didn't say a word to his mother. He just walked toward the door. No one stopped us. No one tried. The 4 of us walked out together, holding on to each other like we were crossing a battlefield that had been waiting years to detonate beneath our feet. As I reached for the door handle, I had one sharp, sickening thought. This isn't the end. This is the fuse lighting. A shadow moved across Sharon's face. Melanie's hand flew to her phone. Lawrence muttered something into the carpet. We stepped out into the cold December air. The door closed behind us with a sound like a loaded gun cocking. If someone had told me years ago that Sharon would one day accuse me of cheating in front of my 6-year-old child in her own living room on Christmas, I would not have believed them. Not because I didn't think she was capable, but because I didn't think the universe would be quite that on the nose. And yet, here we are. The signs were always there. I just kept telling myself they weren't. I met Thomas at a game night I wasn't even supposed to attend. I'd had one of those days, the kind where you find yourself aggressively rethinking every single choice you've ever made, starting from birth. My friend dragged me out. "There'll be food," she said. "Maybe someone cute." There was food. The cute part was debatable. I walked in and saw him immediately. Tall, slightly nervous-looking, wearing a NASA t-shirt, sorting game pieces by color with the focused intensity of someone defusing a device that would destroy the eastern seaboard. He looked up, pushed his glasses up his nose, and said completely, genuinely, unironically serious, asterisk, "The probability distributions in this game heavily favor the starting player." Reader, he had me at probability distributions. Because underneath the awkward delivery and the unsolicited statistics lecture, Thomas was genuinely kind. He listened when I spoke. He cared about things deeply, not in the performance-based, look how much I care way that most people do. It was refreshing. He wasn't charming. He wasn't smooth. But he was earnest in the way that makes you trust someone completely. Unfortunately, he was raised by people who treated earnestness like a genetic defect. The first time he took me to meet his parents, Sharon opened the front door, looked at me, and had the energy of someone who had ordered a different item and been handed this one by mistake. "Oh," she said, "you're Emily." "Yes," I said, smiling, "and you're Sharon." Her smile tightened like a fist. "You're shorter than I expected." "Right, wonderful, fantastic start." Lawrence lurked behind her like a man who had been given permission to exist in the general area, but not to initiate anything. He shook my hand with the confidence of someone waiting to find out what was allowed. Inside the house was nothing less than a shrine to Thomas's academic excellence. Every wall was covered, floor to ceiling, with photos documenting his life from infancy through his PhD, like a museum exhibit titled **The Making of a Perfect Son." I half expected a velvet rope. Dinner that evening was one long interrogation disguised as polite conversation. "What do your parents do? What are you studying? Do you cook? Are you responsible with money? Thomas is very special, you know. He needs the right kind of wife." Under the table, Thomas squeezed my knee. The gesture said, "I know, I'm sorry, just survive it." I survived, barely. What I didn't know yet was that I was also auditioning, unknowingly, for the role of permanent competitor in Thomas's life, up against a family that had no intention of loosening their grip on him, or on his wallet. I found out about the money completely by accident. One afternoon, early in our relationship, I walked past his open laptop. I wasn't snooping. My peripheral vision was simply doing its civic duty. There it was, a recurring automatic payment to his parents' mortgage company. "Why are you paying their mortgage?" I asked. He jumped. It's not, they just need a little help." "Thomas," I said, "you are a graduate student. You are one lab accident away from eating plain cereal for dinner every night." He explained that he had a scholarship, that the lab paid decently, that they really appreciated it. Spoiler, they did not appreciate it, they expected it. Then I noticed a second transfer, to Melanie, his sister. "Why are you paying your sister?" "She's between jobs." I looked at him. Melanie is always between jobs. It's her natural habitat. I didn't push it then. I told myself it was his money, his family, his choice. I told myself it was temporary. That was adorable of me, in retrospect. Fast forward. Thomas finishes his master's, enters a PhD program, works 70-hour weeks for a salary that wouldn't cover a reasonable grocery bill, and still, sends money home every single month, regular as clockwork, like he's funding a nonprofit that has never once filed a thank you note. He gets a well-paying job in applied science. Finally, I think, breathing room, stability. Maybe we can start saving, planning, doing things for ourselves and our children. Instead, the requests escalate. Bella's special programs, Melanie's new degree, the parents' home repairs, a temporary monthly contribution that somehow, mysteriously, still exists 3 years later. Every single time I brought it up, Thomas looked at me like I was asking him to abandon a wounded animal on the side of a highway. They need help. We're doing okay. We were doing okay because we quietly cut corners, skipped vacations, delayed repairs, stretched budgets thin, while his parents enjoyed an emergency full bathroom renovation. Then Noah was born, everything else blurred for a while. My in-laws adored him on sight. He looked exactly like Thomas, same jaw, same eyes, same serious expression even as a newborn. Our genes are strong, they kept saying with a pride that had the faintest territorial edge. Their genes, not mine, but I was too sleep-deprived to fight about pronouns. 2 years later, Mia arrived. And as she grew out of that blurry newborn phase and her features began to take shape, I started catching something in her face I hadn't seen in years. My late grandmother. The same gentle eyes, the same little half-smile that appeared when she was thinking something private, the same quiet softness around her expression, like the world was something she was deciding whether to trust. It hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. My grandmother had been the safest place in my entire childhood. Warm, steady, endlessly patient, the person I ran to when everything else felt uncertain. Seeing pieces of her reappear in my daughter felt like getting a small piece of her back. It was unexpected, and it was tender, and it meant everything to me. When Sharon first saw Mia, she frowned. "She doesn't look like Noah," she said. "She looks like my grandmother," I said. Sharon looked at the baby like she'd been handed a complex equation she hadn't signed up to solve. "Well," she said, "hopefully she grows into the family, like shoes or debt." And so it began. The jokes arrived first, packaged as humor. "Are you sure she's his? Ha, just teasing, relax, it's just funny. Noah is Minnie Thomas and Mia is, I don't know where she came from." "She looks like my grandmother," I said, every time, for years. Every single time they raised an eyebrow at her face in a photograph or squinted at her features in person like she was a mystery that reflected badly on Thomas's bloodline. As Mia got older, the cruelty aged with her. Little comments at birthdays, whispered remarks at family dinners. "She really doesn't look like our side, does she? You might have to tell her the truth someday." The favoritism grew in direct proportion to the cruelty. Noah got the big gifts, the special outings, the extra frosting. Mia got the bargain bin, every time, without fail. Once at some family event, Noah got a cupcake with a superhero topper and double the frosting. Mia got the economy version, smaller, sadder, clearly an afterthought. Noah looked at his cupcake, looked at Mia's, and without a word, carefully transferred exactly half his frosting onto her plate. Then he handed her the superhero topper. "There," he said, "better." I had to pretend to look at my phone, so I wouldn't cry in the middle of the room. I tried talking to Thomas. He kept saying it wasn't intentional. Maybe it wasn't. But intentional or not, my daughter was learning, every time she walked into that house, that she was less. That she was a question mark in a family that had already decided the answer. And on Christmas, she learned exactly how much less Sharon thought she was. By the time we got home that night, I thought I had nothing left. I was emotionally hollowed out, running on adrenaline and cold December air. I tucked Noah and Mia into our bed with a movie, because I couldn't bear the thought of them being more than 6 feet away from me, and then I walked down the hall to find Thomas. I expected packing, spiraling, silent implosion. What I found was a man sitting at his desk, still in his coat, lit up by the cold blue glow of the computer screen. Clicking through his bank account with the focused energy of someone who had made a decision and was dismantling the evidence of an old life. "Thomas, what are you doing?" "Fixing something." I stepped closer. His bank account was open, rows of recurring payments, transfers, automatic contributions, labels I knew by now: mortgage contribution, Melanie monthly, Bella's program fees, and next to each one a single button. Cancel. He clicked one, then another, then another. Are you canceling everything?" "Yes." One word, clean, absolute, like a door slamming shut on a chapter. I grabbed the back of his chair. "Your parents' mortgage, your sister, Bella's." "All of it." He still wasn't looking at me. His jaw was locked, his shoulders rigid, carved from something cold and decided. "This is sudden," I said, which was possibly the most dramatic understatement of my entire life. He leaned back, not relaxed, just done, exhausted and done. "You know what hit me tonight," he said, his voice quiet and low. "My 8-year-old did what I should have done years ago." He finally looked up at me. His eyes were red. Not from tears, though those were close. From shame. From a specific kind of fury that comes from recognizing your own silence. "It should have been me," he said. "I should have defended her. I should have said something. I let them talk about you for years. I let them circle around Mia. But tonight they said it to her face, and I froze." His voice cracked on the word froze. "Noah shouldn't have had to stand up for her," he continued. "He's 8 years old. He shouldn't have felt responsible. That's on me, and I'm not letting it happen again." He turned back to the screen, clicked another cancel, then another. "You have no idea how many times I told myself I was helping them, how many times I convinced myself it was temporary, that they'd appreciate it, that I was being a good son." A short, sharp sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "They never saw me as helping. They saw me as obligated. Tonight just proved what the whole last decade was actually about." I sat on the edge of the desk. My legs had made their own decision about not participating anymore. "So you're done?" I asked quietly. He nodded. "Done sacrificing our children's experiences so my mother can tell Mia she's a mistake. Done paying Melanie's bills so she can mock my daughter's existence. Done being the wallet they kick when they're bored. Thomas, they're going to explode." "Let them," he said. "They've been detonating on us for years. At least now it'll be on their own time." He hit the final confirm button. The screen refreshed like a wound being cleaned. And then, of course, the phone buzzed. "Sharon." He answered it and put it on speaker without hesitation, which told me everything about where he was. "Thomas," her voice came through immediately, shrill, frantic, theatrical. "We just got a notification that our mortgage payment method was removed. Did the bank make an error? What is happening?" "No," he said calmly. "I removed it." Silence, then a sound like she'd been slapped by invisible hands. "What do you mean you removed it? You can't just, your father is panicking, you'll have to put it back." "You'll have to pay it yourselves," he said. "I'm not doing it anymore." "Are you kidding me? After everything we have done for you, we rely on that, we need it." I watched Thomas's face, not a flicker. "I have my own family to support," he said. "We are your family," she screamed. "This is because of her, isn't it? She's turning you against us. She is poisoning." "Stop." One word, no softness. "This isn't Emily. This is me. You told my daughter she came from cheating. You handed her picture back to her face. You humiliated a 6-year-old child at Christmas." "Oh, please," Sharon snapped. "She's 6, she'll forget." "Maybe," he said, voice sharp as glass. "But Noah won't, and neither will I." She went into full banshee territory after that, screaming about how he was destroying the family, throwing everything away, being manipulated, making catastrophic decisions. "You already destroyed it," he said. "You just didn't expect me to notice." He hung up. He hung up on his mother. Thomas, the same man who once apologized to a telemarketer for not being interested in a product he never asked to be called about, hung up on his own mother, mid-sentence. I stared at him. He stared at the floor. His shoulders were shaking slightly from the weight of it, I think, from the years of it. Then the phone buzzed again. "Melanie." "Level 2, I muttered. He answered. "What the hell, Thomas?" She came in hot. "Mom just called me crying. You cut her off and me. How am I supposed to pay for Bella's classes?" "That's not my problem." "You can't do that, all because Mom made a joke." "She insulted my daughter," he said, quiet and steady. "And you backed her up." "Oh, for crying out loud, it was funny. Everyone thinks Mia looks nothing like." "Don't," the word was a wall. "Don't finish that sentence." She finished it anyway. "You don't even know if she's yours." The silence that followed was so thick, you could have carved your name in it. "We're done," Thomas said. You're throwing away your family." "No," he said, "I'm protecting mine." He hung up again. And then he leaned back in his chair, covered his face with both hands, and exhaled, a long, slow, shaking breath that sounded like 6 years of compression finally releasing. I walked over and put my arms around him. He didn't pull away. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. He didn't speak for a long moment, just breathed. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this was not the end. This was the beginning. If there's one thing I've learned about people like Sharon, it's this. They don't lick their wounds. They sharpen their teeth. The smear campaign began less than 48 hours later. I was buttering toast for Mia when my phone buzzed with a message from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. "Hey, are you okay? Your mother-in-law posted something." Intense. I opened Facebook. There it was. A full-length tragic monologue, complete with dramatic line breaks and a sepia-toned photograph of Sharon cradling infant Thomas like a woman who had personally sacrificed everything for an ungrateful world. According to her account, she had lost her son to a manipulative woman. She had been cut off financially by force. She had been alienated from her beloved grandson through systematic brainwashing. She had been punished, for simply speaking a truth that everyone could see. The stinger at the end, we only ever expressed concern because Mia looks nothing like our family. We just wanted to protect our son. For that, we were exiled. And Melanie, arriving in the comments like a clearance sale hype woman. She's using him. He's blinded. This is what happens when you let the wrong woman take over. There were screenshots of Noah and Mia side by side, with circles drawn around their faces like they were exhibits in a criminal case. Thomas read it over my shoulder. I watched his jaw drop, clench, and then do something that looked like it was considering a spasm. "They're telling people you cheated," he said. "Welcome to the Sharon experience," I said, now with premium public humiliation. People were agreeing with her in the comments. Not everyone, but enough. Poor Thomas. She's obviously controlling him. That little girl looks nothing like him. I'm just saying. Thomas took the phone, gently out of my hands, before I could throw it into a wall or a toaster or outer space. "Tell me what you want to do," he said. "Whatever it is, I'm with you." I took one breath. "We're getting a DNA test. Let's end this circus permanently." Mia didn't understand why someone swabbed the inside of her cheek. Thomas explained it as a fun science club activity. Noah asked if he could get swabbed too. We told him maybe next time. Waiting for results felt like holding my breath underwater. Not because I doubted, not even for a second, but because I knew exactly what would happen the moment the truth hit daylight, and I knew Sharon would have nowhere left to hide. While we waited, I went to my mother's house and pulled out the old photo boxes. My grandmother's face looked back at me from every angle, laughing, serious, thoughtful, with that same soft eye crinkle Mia has when something makes her genuinely happy. The resemblance wasn't just there. It was undeniable. It was the kind of resemblance that would have been obvious to anyone who had ever once bothered to look at my family with open eyes instead of an agenda. The DNA email arrived. I opened it sitting next to Thomas on the couch. One leg bouncing like it had somewhere urgent to be. Probability of paternity, *99, 999%. I exhaled so slowly I realized I had been holding it for longer than I knew. "Congratulations," I said. "You are, in fact, the biological father of the child you have been raising for 6 years." He snorted. "Send it to me." We didn't respond to Sharon's post directly. No comments, no tags, no dramatic confrontation or screaming match. We simply made our own post. A collage, Mia smiling, Thomas holding baby Mia, a photo of my grandmother, a photo of Mia standing next to my grandmother's picture, the resemblance unmistakable. Our caption: "For anyone who's heard the rumors, here are the facts. Mia is Thomas's biological daughter. DNA results attached. She also looks exactly like Emily's grandmother, which is something you would know if anyone in this family had ever bothered to learn her side of the family instead of questioning her fidelity for years." Someone said these words directly to our 6-year-old child's face. Children from mommy's cheating don't get to call me grandma. That is why we cut contact. That is why financial support ended. You do not speak to a child that way and continue to have access to her. Thomas reposted it with one additional paragraph. Since graduate school, I have sent my parents and sister between $500 and $900 a month, whatever they asked for, whatever they said they couldn't cover. When I added it up, it came to $80,940. I have records of every transfer. After all of that, they accused my wife of cheating and told my daughter she wasn't mine. We're done. We hit post. For approximately 7 minutes, nothing happened. Then everything happened. The comments came in steady waves, and then a flood. I had no idea she said that to Mia. That's disgusting. The resemblance to your grandmother is undeniable. I'm so sorry. No child deserves to hear those words. Not ever. Honestly, good for you, both of you. In family group chats, the ones I knew existed and the ones I didn't, silence bloomed. Then confusion. Then the quiet, deeply satisfying sound of people realizing they had backed the wrong side. One cousin messaged me privately, "I'm so sorry. I genuinely didn't know. I thought Sharon was exaggerating. This is awful." Another, she said that to a 6-year-old. At Christmas, not okay, not remotely okay. Sharon had a big birthday coming up. She'd been planning it for months. Invitations had gone out to half the extended family. One by one, those RSVPs started quietly revering. "Sorry, can't make it." Something came up. Not comfortable attending after what I heard. She ended up with an overpriced cake, an empty dining room, and Lawrence doing his best impression of a man who was absolutely fine with all of this. I won't pretend I didn't savor that image. I absolutely did. But the real turning point came in the form of a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Emily?" An older voice, precise, polished, carrying authority the way some people carry it naturally without needing to announce it. "Yes. This is Virginia, Thomas's aunt." I went still. We'd met twice. She was Sharon's older sister, 10 years older, 10 times more composed, and seemingly wired from entirely different material. "I saw the posts," she said. "I also received the unfiltered version from someone who still has a spine." I didn't dare laugh, but I wanted to. "I have one question," she continued. "Did Sharon actually say those words to your daughter, directly to her face?" "Yes," I said, "in front of the entire room." A long exhale, and the $80,000, is that accurate? Thomas has records of every transfer. Silence, and then her voice shifted, becoming crisp, purposeful, the tone of a woman who has made a decision and is now simply informing the relevant parties. "Then I've made a decision," she said. "What kind of decision?" "The kind that involves lawyers and wills." My hand tightened on the counter. "I've removed my sister," she continued. "Everything she was expecting, everything she has been counting on for years, is now going to Thomas and your children. I've also established a trust that begins paying out immediately. I would rather see my money build something for people with integrity than reward cruelty. Your children deserve better than to grow up under the shadow of Sharon's bitterness." I couldn't speak. I genuinely couldn't find a word. "And before you worry," she added, with a kind of warmth I hadn't expected, "this isn't charity, this is justice." When I hung up, I stood in the kitchen for a long moment, my heart pounding somewhere near my throat. Thomas walked in. "Who was that?" "Your Aunt Virginia," I said. "You're going to want to sit down." Because here's what happened next. Here's what Sharon did not see coming when she decided that Christmas was the appropriate moment to deliver her little verdict to a 6-year-old child with her gift still warm in her hands. She handed us everything. Not immediately, not without pain, but she handed us the clarity to leave, the proof to silence the narrative, the moral high ground so complete that even her own family couldn't defend her, and the inheritance she had spent her entire life expecting, the money she had been counting on like a retirement plan, like a guarantee. It went somewhere else entirely. 6 months later, The silence is blissful. My in-laws, on the other hand, had to sell their house, downsize significantly, come to terms with the fact that a lifetime of relying on a future inheritance while spending a son's income in the present is not, in fact, a financial strategy. Thomas's aunt, the one with the late millionaire husband, the crisp voice, and the apparent limit for watching her sister's cruelty go unrewarded, rewrote her will within a week of the drama unfolding. A substantial trust for our children, a generous provision for us. Every cent Sharon had been quietly counting on, redirected. And meanwhile, we've started living, traveling, breathing differently, making choices for our family without the constant, exhausting math of how much is already spoken for. Noah still has his drawing back, the sledding one, the one he snatched off Sharon's mantle with shaking 8-year-old hands in a room full of adults who didn't do what he did. It's framed now, on the wall in our hallway, not because it's particularly fine art, but because it is the most honest thing that happened in that house all year, maybe in several years. Mia still doesn't fully understand what happened at Christmas. She knows we don't visit that grandmother anymore. She knows her brother stood up for her. And lately, she's been asking to look at the old pictures, the ones of my grandmother, the ones where they both have the same eyes, the same smile, the same quiet softness that means something only to the people who know what they're seeing. "We look the same," she said one afternoon, holding the photograph up next to her face. "You do," I told her. She smiled the same smile. "I like that," she said. "So do I, baby, so do I." End of script.